My daughter crashed my car and brazenly declared, "You'll give me the insurance money." I remained silent, and when the full amount was paid out, she rushed over to collect the money triumphantly. But instead of a check, I handed her a document that made her face turn pale.
"Don't do this. I beg you," she cried, because the betrayal turned into righteous revenge that would change our lives forever.
Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you were listening in the comments. The front door slammed against the wall with such force that my coffee mug froze halfway to my lips. Emily burst through the doorway like a storm, her designer heels clicking frantically against the hardwood floors. Mascara streaked down her cheeks in dark rivulets, and her expensive purse clutched desperately in trembling hands.
"Dad, I need $5,000, her voice cracked with desperation.
"Without this money, I simply won't survive." The stack of medical bills scattered across my kitchen table seemed to mock her words. The top one, clearly visible, showed 847 to 92 in bold red letters. Another reminder of Sarah's final months. I set down my mug carefully, watching the coffee ripple from Emily's dramatic entrance.
"Emily, you understand? I have problem myself right now.
I gestured toward the bills.
Medical expenses for your mother."
"You don't love me anymore." She whirled around, pacing like a caged animal. "You always find excuses. Always some reason why you can't help your own daughter." Her accusations hit harder than intended. The worn cardigan I'd been wearing since morning suddenly felt heavier. The coffee stain from breakfast more pronounced on the mantel. Our family photo from happier times watched this destruction. Sarah's gentle smile a stark contrast to the chaos filling our living room.
"This isn't about love, Emily." My voice remained steady despite the turmoil inside.
"It's about reality, about responsibilities." She stopped pacing abruptly, spinning to face me. "Responsibilities? What about your responsibility to me?" "I'm drowning here, Dad. Rent, car repairs, everything's falling apart." The vulnerability in her voice almost broke my resolve. Every instinct screamed to protect her, to write the check and solve her problems like I'd done countless times before. But the medical bills served as cold reminders. My own financial stability hung by threads.
"I wish I could help."
The words felt like glass in my throat. But right now, with everything that's happened, with my job situation, uncertain, her laugh held no humor. "You've had the same job for 15 years.
"Stop making excuses. Emily, please."
I stood slowly, trying to bridge the growing chasm between us. "Sit down. Let's talk about this reasonably. Maybe we can figure out another solution." "There is no other solution." She grabbed her purse, clutching it like a lifeline.
"You're supposed to be my father."
"You're supposed to care about what happens to me." The accusation hung between us like a physical wall. Watching my daughter's face contort with anger and disappointment, I felt the familiar weight of being the parent who had to say no, even when every fiber of my being wanted to protect her from whatever crisis she'd created.
"This is unfair, and you know it." My voice came out quieter than intended. "But I can't do anything right now." Emily's expression shifted from desperation to something colder, more calculating.
The transformation chilled me more than her tears had. She straightened her shoulders, wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, and walked toward the door with deliberate precision. "Fine." The single word carried the weight of years of frustration.
"I understand perfectly now."
She paused at the threshold, her silhouette framed against the evening darkness. For a moment I thought she might turn back, might give us both a chance to repair this fracture. Instead, she stepped into the night without another word. The door closed with a soft click that somehow felt more final than her earlier dramatic entrance. Through the window, I watched her car's engine come to life, headlights cutting through the gathering dusk. The tail lights grew smaller as she drove away, leaving me standing alone in a house that suddenly felt too large and too quiet. The medical bills still lay scattered across the table, and my coffee had grown cold. The alarm shrill cry at 5:30 a.m. pierced through dreams I couldn't quite remember. 3 days had passed since Emily's visit. 3 days of avoiding thoughts about our confrontation while focusing on preparing for this crucial trip. My worn leather suitcase lay open on the bed, waiting for the business clothes that might determine my job security. I folded my navy suit carefully, the fabric still crisp from the dry cleaner. The quarterly report sat in neat stacks beside my laptop. Months of work distilled into presentations that could make or break my position at the company. The medical bills remained on the kitchen table like silent sentinels, reminding me why this conference mattered so much. A brief moment of hesitation struck as I surveyed the house. Leaving it empty always made me uneasy, especially after Sarah's death. The familiar routine of checking locks and windows had become a ritual of sorts, a way to maintain control in an increasingly uncertain world. The taxi arrived precisely at 6:15 a.m. Carlos, the middle-aged Hispanic driver, helped load my suitcase with professional courtesy. "Thank you for taking me so early," I said, settling into the back seat. "Didn't want to leave my car at airport parking." "No problem." "Sea business trip, conference in New York, 3 days." I glanced back at my Ford Explorer sitting reliably in the driveway. The 2019 Blue model had served me well despite the small dent in the rear bumper from a grocery store incident last year. Important for my job. The March morning carried a crisp bite at 38-degree overcast sky, promising another typical Chicago day. As we pulled away, Mr. Ramirez waved from across the street, probably heading out for his morning walk. I waved back, grateful for neighbors who kept an eye on things. During the drive, I reviewed my notes one final time. The presentation needed to be flawless. Budget cuts had everyone nervous, and my department faced particularly close scrutiny. My phone buzzed with a text from my colleague, Mike. "Mike, did you receive the quarterly reports I sent?"
I called him back immediately.
"I want to make sure we're aligned for the presentation."
"Got everything?"
"Looking good, Alex. Don't stress too much." Easy for him to say. His wife wasn't buried under medical debts. His daughter wasn't demanding money he didn't have. The familiar weight of responsibility pressed against my chest as O'Hare Airport came into view. Check-in proceeded smoothly despite the early morning crowds. Business travelers moved with practice efficiency, and I found myself among them. Another suited figure carrying documents that felt increasingly important with each step toward Gate B7. Maybe I was too harsh with Emily. The thought had haunted me for 3 days, creeping in during quiet moments when my defenses were down. But she had to learn responsibility sometime. Sarah had always been the mediator, smoothing conflicts with her gentle wisdom. Without her, I felt like I was navigating parenthood without a compass. The boarding announcement crackled through the terminal speakers. I gathered my carry-on, checked my phone one last time for any urgent messages, and joined the line of passengers. The familiar routine of air travel provided comfort, something predictable in a life that had become anything but. As the plane lifted off, I pressed my face to the small window, watching Chicago's suburbs shrink below. Somewhere down there was my neighborhood, my house, my reliable Ford Explorer waiting in the driveway. The sight should have been reassuring, but something nagged at the edge of my consciousness, a feeling I couldn't quite name. The city disappeared beneath clouds, and I turned my attention to the presentation materials spread across my lap. 3 days in New York, then home to deal with whatever waited there. The taxi's headlights swept across my driveway at 11:47 p.m., and something was wrong. Terribly wrong. My Ford Explorer sat in its usual spot, but the familiar silhouette looked fractured, broken in ways that made no immediate sense. "Jesus Christ," the driver muttered. An older black man who'd been silent during most of the ride from O'Hare. "Sir, what happened to your car?" My suitcase hit the asphalt with a dull thud as I stumbled out, legs cramped from delayed flights and the crushing realization of what I was seeing. The spiderweb of cracks across my windshield caught the taxi's lights like a deadly kaleidoscope. 3 major impact points suggesting deliberate repeated strikes.
"What the?" The words died in my throat.
I walked around the vehicle in shocked silence, my phone's flashlight revealing the full scope of destruction. Every panel bore evidence of systematic, deliberate vandalism. The hood displayed multiple dents, each one clearly made by something heavy.
"A baseball bat, perhaps?" or a crowbar.
Deep scratches had been keyed into the side panels, spelling something illable but unmistakably vindictive. 2 tires were completely slashed, rubber hanging in defeated strips. The third showed a clean puncture wound, slowly deflating with each passing second. Both side mirrors dangled by their wires like broken limbs, and through the shattered windows I could see the interior remain mysteriously untouched. "Sir, should I call police?" The driver had stepped out, his concern evident. "This looks deliberate."
"No, not yet."
My analytical mind was taking over, pushing aside the initial shock. Let me think about this. I began taking photos documenting every angle of damage. The timestamps read 11:52, 11:54, 11:58 p.m., evidence for whatever would come next. The precision of the destruction struck me as I worked. This wasn't random vandalism by bored teenagers. Someone had taken their time, worked methodically, ensured maximum damage while avoiding the house entirely.
Who could have done this?
The question circled my mind like a predator. Why my car specifically? I noticed no other vehicles on the street showed any signs of tampering. The Johnson sedan sat pristine in their driveway. The Eldridge's old Buick appeared untouched. Even Mr. Ramirez's pickup truck looked exactly as it had when I had left 3 days ago. This was personal. Standing in my driveway at midnight, surrounded by the scattered pieces of what had been my reliable transportation for 6 years, I felt something fundamental shift inside me. The comfortable illusion that bad things happen to other people had just shattered as completely as my windshield.
"You know what?"
I told the driver. "Could you actually wait?"
"I need to make another trip tonight."
But even as I said it, I knew nowhere would be open at this hour for the kind of help I needed. This would wait until morning. The house felt different as I dragged my suitcase inside, violated somehow, though nothing appeared disturbed indoors. I drew every curtain, turned on every light, and sat at my kitchen table with a legal pad. The medical bills looked smaller now, overshadowed by this new crisis. Insurance would cover most of the car damage, assuming I could prove it wasn't my fault. But that wasn't really the point anymore. Someone had known I would be away. Someone had used that knowledge to destroy my property with careful precision. Someone wanted to send me a message written in broken glass and slashed rubber. The question was who, and more importantly, why. I began making a list of people to question tomorrow, starting with the neighbors. Surely someone had seen something, heard something. Vandalism, this extensive, couldn't happen in complete silence. The methodical destruction would have taken time, created noise. Someone knew something. As I wrote names in careful columns, organizing my approach like the business presentation I'd just completed, one thought kept returning. The timing was too perfect to be coincidence. Someone had known exactly when I'd be gone. The pen felt heavy in my hand as I added one more name to the list, one I hoped I wouldn't need to investigate. Coffee steam rose from my mug as I spread the printed photos across the kitchen table, each image a stark reminder of Wednesday night's destruction. The manila folder lay open beside my composition notebook. Black cover, clean pages waiting for whatever truth I might uncover. At 9:30 a.m. on this crisp Friday morning, the methodical engineer in me had taken control. I'd spent yesterday processing the shop. Today was about facts. The first house belonged to Tom and Linda Johnson, their brick ranch sitting directly across from mine. Tom answered the door in weekend clothes, concern creasing his weathered face when he saw the photos. "Sorry to bother you, but did you see anything unusual Wednesday night? We just got back from the lake house yesterday." He studied the images with genuine sympathy. "This is terrible, Alex. Really sorry to hear about your car." Linda appeared behind him, shaking her head in dismay. "Who would do such a thing in our neighborhood?" Their shock seemed authentic, but they offered nothing useful. I noted the time, 9:35 a.m., and moved on. Mr. Ramirez was working in his yard, the 2-story colonial's flower beds receiving his careful attention. A practical man in his 50s, he straightened when I approached with my folder. "Did you hear anything unusual Wednesday night around midnight?" He paused, gardening gloves dirty from morning work. Heard some sounds, but thought it was raccoons getting into trash. His expression shifted as I showed him the photos. This happened Wednesday. Maybe it wasn't raccoons after all. What time exactly did you hear the sounds? Maybe 11:30 midnight.
Figured it was nothing important.
He looked genuinely apologetic.
Should have checked, I guess.
I wrote carefully in my notebook. Ramirez heard destruction. 11:30, 12 AX PM dismissed as animals. The timing aligned perfectly with when someone had systematically destroyed my Ford Explorer. The Eldridge house, a small craftsman style, required more patience. Mrs. Eldridge answered slowly, her husband visible in the background, adjusting his hearing aids. Everything was quiet when we went to bed at 10, she said after examining the photos with obvious distress. We sleep pretty soundly these days, though.
Medicine, you know, her husband called from his chair.
What's he showing you, Martha? Vandalism, Harold. Someone destroyed Alex's car. Their genuine concern was touching, but their early bedtime eliminated them as potential witnesses. I thanked them and continued my systematic canvass. Each conversation followed similar patterns. Knocked doors, concerned faces, examination of photos, expressions of sympathy. Nobody had seen unfamiliar cars. Nobody noticed anyone watching the neighborhood. The few who'd heard sounds had dismissed them as typical nighttime noises. Walking back down the familiar sidewalk where I'd lived for 15 years, I realized that whoever had destroyed my car knew not just my address, but my habits, my travel schedule, and possibly even my relationship with these neighbors who barely knew my name. The destroyed Ford Explorer sat in my driveway like an accusation. Looking at it now, with Mr. Ramirez's timing fresh in my mind, I noticed something I'd missed before. The positioning of the damage suggested someone who'd worked methodically, starting with the windshield and moving clockwise around the vehicle. This wasn't random rage. It was calculated destruction. My phone felt heavy in my hand as I scrolled to the Allstate number. Time to see what insurance could tell me about putting my life back together. The Allstate customer service representative sounded professionally sympathetic as I explained the situation. My organized paperwork spread across the kitchen table like evidence in a court case. Policy documents, printed photos, and my investigation notes from yesterday's neighborhood canvass created a methodical display that would have impressed my engineering colleagues.
I want to report an act of vandalism on my vehicle. I began reading from my policy number.
I'm sorry to hear that, Mr. Green. Let me get some information and schedule an assessor for you. The process moved efficiently. Case number 2024-789456, assessment scheduled for this afternoon. A list of required documentation that I'd already prepared. Within 20 minutes I had a plan of action and a professional coming to evaluate the damage. Mike Thornton arrived at 1:30 p.m. in a white Allstate van equipped with assessment tools and a tablet for electronic reporting. A man in his early 40s with salt and pepper hair. He moved with the confidence of someone who would examine thousands of damaged vehicles. Mr. Green, I'm Mike Thornton from Allstate. His handshake was firm, his demeanor reassuringly professional. Let's take a look at what we're dealing with. The systematic examination that followed impressed me with its thoroughness. Mike documented every scratch, dent, and broken piece of glass using a digital camera with measurement scales. He tested mechanical components, checked frame integrity underneath the vehicle, and noted security features. This is one of the worst cases of vandalism I've seen, he said, crouching beside the slashed tires. Looks very deliberate. Someone really wanted to cause maximum damage. How much could this cost to repair? Mike stood, brushing dirt from his knees. Around $8,000, possibly total loss given the vehicle's age and condition. Your 2019 Explorer has been well maintained, but when vandalism gets this extensive, he showed me photos on his tablet, zooming in on specific damage points. The professional assessment made the violation feel more real somehow, translating my emotional shock into concrete dollar amounts and repair timelines. How quickly do you process claims like this? Usually within a week, for straightforward vandalism cases. Your comprehensive coverage includes a $500 deductible, so you're looking at about $7,300 in coverage. Mike tapped entries into his tablet with practiced efficiency. Do you need a police report?
It's not required for vandalism claims, but some people prefer to file one.
I considered this.
What would you recommend? Up to you.
Police reports can help if the perpetrator is caught, but for insurance purposes, my assessment and your photos are sufficient. We completed the electronic paperwork together, Mike explaining each section as we progressed. His thoroughness and genuine concern made the process less overwhelming than I had anticipated. After 45 minutes, I held completed claim documentation and contact information for follow-up questions. "One more thing," Mike said as he packed his equipment.
Any idea who might have done this? Vandalism.
This systematic usually isn't random. The question hung between us like an unspoken accusation. Did I have enemies? Had I wronged someone badly enough to deserve this level of retaliation? The possibilities churned in my mind, but I had no concrete answers. "Nothing comes to mind," I replied honestly, just trying to figure out what happened. Mike drove away in his van, leaving me with paperwork that promised resolution and a check that would arrive within 5 to 7 business days. Standing in my driveway, I looked one more time at the destroyed vehicle, then at the documentation showing $7,300 in pending compensation. For the first time since discovering the damage, I felt something approaching optimism. Insurance would handle the financial impact, and soon I'd have enough money to replace my reliable transportation. Walking toward my house, I wondered what I'd do when that check finally arrived. Thursday afternoon found me in my living room with a book and coffee. The insurance paperwork neatly filed and the waiting game officially begun. Outside, spring had arrived in earnest, 50,000 and sunny, with neighbors working in their yards and the familiar sounds of suburban life drifting through open windows. For the first time in weeks, I felt almost relaxed. Car doors slammed in my driveway. Through the window, I recognized Emily's distinctive walk, confident strides that suggested she'd come with a purpose. No desperate pounding this time, no mascara streaks or trembling hands. This Emily looked composed, determined, almost triumphant.
Emily, what a surprise.
I opened the door with genuine pleasure despite our recent tension.
Come in, sweetheart.
She entered without the dramatic flair from her last visit, her expensive purse slung casually over one shoulder, designer jeans and fitted jacket, suggesting money spent somewhere other than on rent payments.
Hi, Dad, we need to talk.
Something in her tone made me pause, not the desperation from weeks ago, but a cool confidence that seemed oddly misplaced given our financial discussion. I gestured toward the living room where family photos watched from the mantel, and my insurance paperwork still lay visible on the coffee table. She settled onto the sofa with calculated ease, while I returned to my armchair, my phone resting within easy reach on the side table. The afternoon light streaming through windows should have made this feel like a pleasant family visit, but tension crackled beneath Emily's composed surface. "I know about the insurance claim," she began without preamble. "For your car, word travels fast in insurance circles." I attempted lightness, though her directness puzzled me. Emily's smile held no warmth. "It was me, Dad. I destroyed your car." The words hit like physical blows, coffee mug frozen halfway to my lips. I stared at my daughter, the child I'd raised, educated, supported through every crisis, and felt the world tilt sideways. "What, Emily?"
How could you possibly?
"You wouldn't give me the money, so I decided insurance would." Her matter-of-fact tone made the confession even more shocking. "Worked out perfectly, really. You get your car replaced, and now you have the cash I needed originally." My phone was already in my hand. Muscle memory from years of business calls. A casual swipe activated the recording app legal in Illinois with single-party consent. And something told me I'd need evidence of this conversation. "You deliberately destroyed my property while I was traveling." Wednesday night around 11:30 took longer than expected. Those windshields are tougher than they look. She examined her manicured nails with disturbing nonchalance, but I got the job done.
This is a crime.
"Do you understand what you've done?" Emily's laugh carried no humor.
Drama much, Dad. You have insurance.
"No one really gets hurt. Your precious Ford Explorer was ancient anyway. Now you'll get something newer with the payout." Sitting across from the child I had raised, I felt something fundamental break inside me. This wasn't the desperate daughter from our kitchen confrontation. This was a stranger wearing Emily's face, displaying a calculated coldness that made my blood freeze.
I needed that money more than you needed that old car, she continued.
Besides, you're being dramatic. Just give me the check when it comes, and we'll call it even.
Call it even?
My voice barely controlled the rage building inside. You committed vandalism. You destroyed thousands of dollars worth of property. Property you'll replace with insurance money. She leaned forward with predatory focus.
Money you're going to share with your daughter who's drowning in debt while you hoard cash like some miser.
This isn't just about money. This is about trust.
About family. I raised you better than this.
You raised me to believe family helps family. When you refused, I found another way. Her shrug dismissed years of moral teaching, family values, basic human decency. Now you'll get the insurance money and you're giving it to me. Simple solution. The casual entitlement in her voice, the complete absence of remorse, the calculating way she'd planned and executed this violation. Everything crystallized into perfect, horrible clarity. My own daughter had deliberately betrayed me, then arrived to demand payment for her crime. Emily stood abruptly, apparently finished with explanations. I'll call you next week to arrange pickup.
Cash would be easiest.
She moved toward the door with the same confident stride that had brought her in, leaving me stunned in my chair with family photos bearing silent witness to the destruction of everything I'd believed about my child. The door slammed with finality, her car engine started, tires crunched on gravel, and silence returned to my violated home. I remained motionless, phone still recording, staring at the family pictures that now felt like monuments to a dead past. Friday evening found me in my study, door closed against the world. Emily's recorded confession playing one final time through my phone speaker. Her voice carried the same casual confidence that had shocked me 3 days ago, each word a fresh reminder of how completely I'd failed as a father. The family photo albums lay scattered across my desk like evidence in a courtroom.
University of Illinois graduation.
Emily in cap and gown. Sarah and I beaming with pride. First apartment keys. Emily laughing as I carried boxes up 3 flights of stairs. 28 years of memories.
And now this.
I opened my laptop and began calculating. University tuition $52,000 over 4 years. Car down payment and co-signed loan $8,500. Security deposits for various apartments $3,200. Emergency.
Loans that were never repaid $7,400. The
Numbers accumulated like compound interest on my naivety. Total investment in Emily's future, 71 return on investment. Systematic destruction of my property and demands for more money. Sarah's reading chair sat empty in the corner, still positioned where she'd spent countless evenings before her illness. I could almost hear her voice during one of our late-night discussions about Emily's spending habits. Love sometimes means saying, no, Alex, we're not helping her by making everything easy. I disagreed then, believing parental love meant protection from consequences. Now, staring at financial documents that chronicled years of enabling, I finally understood my wife's warning hadn't been criticism of Emily, but protection of her character. The computer screen glowed as I researched Illinois vandalism laws. Property damage exceeding $500 constituted a Class A misdemeanor. Potential fines up to $20,500, possible jail time. Insurance fraud carried federal implications if amounts exceeded certain thresholds. My engineering mind processed the information systematically. This wasn't just about recovering money or punishing Emily for her crime. This was about teaching consequences that I'd failed to implement for 28 years. I picked up my phone and scrolled to Bob's contact information. Bob Martinez, my colleague from the engineering firm, had mentioned his divorce attorney during our lunch conversation last month, not for divorce, for referrals to other legal specialists.
Bob, sorry to call so late.
Do you know a good attorney?
Alex, everything okay?
I need someone who understands civil matters, family-related issues. There was a pause. David Lloyd handled my divorce, but he also does other civil work. Good guy, reasonable rates. Want his number. 20 minutes later, I had an appointment scheduled for Monday afternoon. David Lloyd, civil litigation specialist, came recommended with the kind of professional reputation I needed for what I was planning. Sitting in the chair where Sarah used to read before bed, surrounded by the evidence of our daughter's financial dependence and emotional manipulation, I finally understood that my wife's warnings about enabling Emily hadn't been criticism of our daughter, but protection of her character. The family album closed with a soft thud. I saved my legal research bookmarks and reached for my phone to confirm Monday's appointment. David Lloyd would help me teach Emily the lesson I should have started years ago. Wednesday morning's mail delivery brought the envelope I'd been anticipating, thick, official, bearing the All-State logo that had become familiar over recent weeks. I sorted through bills and advertisements at my kitchen table, saving the insurance correspondence for last, like a carefully planned reward. The check inside exceeded my expectations. $7,500 exactly, with claim number 2024789456 printed in neat corporate font. The memo line read, "Vevele Vandalism Claim Settlement." Each word a reminder of Emily's calculated betrayal. More than enough money to teach her a lesson she'd never forget. Rather than call a taxi, I decided on the public transportation. The CTA bus Route 49 would take me downtown to the Chase Bank branch, giving me time to think about strategy during the 35-minute ride. My damaged Ford Explorer remained in the driveway, a deliberate choice that was becoming more strategic with each passing day. The bus was nearly empty at mid-M morning, commuters having reached their destinations hours earlier. I sat by a window watching familiar neighborhoods pass while reviewing my plans. The damaged car served multiple purposes now. Visible reminder of Emily's crime, psychological pressure tool, and evidence for any future legal proceedings. At Chase Bank, the middle-aged teller processed my deposit with efficient professionalism, her fingers flying across keyboard keys as she entered information. Nice check.
Auto insurance. Yes, unfortunately, vandalism.
Sorry to hear that. At least insurance covered it properly. That's what I pay premiums for. The transaction completed smoothly, my account balance increasing by exactly $7,500. The receipt showed the deposit time as 10:47 a.m. documentation that might prove useful later. Walking home took 45 minutes, a deliberate route that passed through neighborhoods where other residents maintained their properties with obvious pride. Well-kept lawns, freshly painted fences, cars parked in driveways without broken glass or slashed tires. The contrast with my own situation felt increasingly intentional. My destroyed vehicle sat exactly where I'd left it. Spider-webbed windshield, catching afternoon sunlight like a broken promise. Neighbors still slowed when passing, their expressions mixing sympathy with curiosity about why I hadn't begun repairs.
I wouldn't be repairing anything yet.
The damaged car represented more than transportation now. Every dent and scratch told the story of my daughter's character, visible evidence of what happened when someone I loved chose to betray trust and destroy what others had worked to build. Emily would see it every time she visited, a constant reminder of her choices and their consequences. Standing in my driveway, insurance check deposited and strategy crystallizing, I pulled out my phone to review my contacts. Bob's referral to David Lloyd had been scheduled for Monday afternoon.
Legal consultation, evidence presentation, strategy development.
Everything was falling into place with engineering precision. The screen showed David Lloyd's office number, appointment confirmed for Tuesday p.m., 3 days to prepare documentation, organize evidence, and plan the conversation that would determine how Emily's education and accountability would proceed. My thumb hovered over his contact information, already anticipating Monday's legal consultation and the satisfying sound of consequences, finally catching up with choices. David Lloyd's law office occupied Suite 3 Parshallin of a modest mid-rise building, the kind of professional space that suggested competence without intimidation. I sat in the waiting room with my manila folder containing printed audio transcripts, photographs, and insurance documentation. Preparation that would have impressed my engineering colleagues, Mr. Green, David Lloyd. The handshake was firm, professional. David appeared younger than his 45 years with graying temples and the analytical expression of someone accustomed to solving complex problems. His office mixed family photos with law books, creating an atmosphere of both expertise and accessibility.
I understand you need assistance with a family matter.
I opened my folder methodically. My daughter vandalized my car while I was traveling, then confessed and demanded the insurance money.
I have her admission recorded.
David's eyebrows rose slightly as I played Emily's casual confession through my phone speaker. Her voice filled his office with the same entitled confidence that had shocked me weeks ago, each word building a stronger legal case. We have solid evidence here. The recording is admissible in Illinois, single-party consent state. He reviewed the photographs while making notes on a legal pad. What outcome are you seeking? Accountability. She's 28 years old and has never faced real consequences for her actions. Civil lawsuit for property damage, emotional distress, potential fraud attempt. We could pursue $10,000 in damages plus court costs. David's fingers tapped against his desk. Criminal charges would require police involvement, but civil action gives you more control over resolution. The legal strategy developed over the next hour. Documentation prepared for immediate serving, settlement options that included behavioral requirements, timeline for filing that would maximize educational impact. David's approach focused on teaching rather than destroying exactly what I needed. Papers can be ready for serving within 48 hours. Sheriff's Department handles official delivery, ensures proper legal notification.
I have something for you.
She followed me into the living room with barely contained excitement, settling onto the familiar sofa where family photos watched from the mantel like silent witnesses. Through the window behind her, my destroyed Ford Explorer sat in the driveway, broken windshield catching afternoon sunlight. A reminder of why we were here.
I've been thinking about this all week, she said, purse positioned expectantly on her lap.
This will solve everything. My rent, my car payment, getting back on track financially. I reached for the envelope with deliberate calm, my engineering mind savoring the precision of this moment. Months of planning, preparation, and strategy had led to this single exchange of documents. Here, this is for you. Read it carefully. Emily's manicured fingers tore open the seal with eager efficiency, her smile broad and confident as she extracted the papers inside. The letterhead caught her attention first. David Lloyd, attorney at law, and I watched confusion flicker across her features. What is this?
I thought you were bringing a check. Read it every word.
Her eyes moved across the first page, processing legal terminology with growing bewilderment.
Civil lawsuit.
Alex Green versus Emily Green. She looked up sharply.
Dad, what is this supposed to mean? Keep reading.
The color began draining from her face as she reached the financial sections. $10,000 in damages, property destruction, insurance fraud attempt. Her voice dropped to a whisper.
Emotional distress. It's a lawsuit, Emily, for what you did to my car.
The papers trembled in her hands as the full implications crystallized.
You're suing me, your own daughter.
You destroyed my property and tried to steal insurance money. My voice carried the same professional tone I used in engineering presentations.
Actions have consequences.
This is yours. Emily stared at the documents as if they might transform into something else through sheer willpower. Her expensive purse slid forgotten to the floor, designer confidence crumbling into genuine panic as she processed what $10,000 in legal damages would mean for her already precarious financial situation.
Dad, this isn't, you can't be serious.
Watching my daughter's face transform from greedy anticipation to horrified understanding, I felt the cold satisfaction of a parent who had finally found the perfect consequence for a child who thought family meant unlimited bailouts without accountability. The damaged car outside the window seemed to nod its approval through shattered glass. Dad, this isn't real. You wouldn't actually sue me. Emily's voice cracked with desperation as she clutched the legal documents like evidence of her own execution. This is your own daughter.
Family doesn't do this.
I remained seated in my chair, watching her process the magnitude of consequences she'd never considered possible. The afternoon sunlight streaming through windows highlighted dust motes dancing around us like tiny witnesses to this reckoning. It was just a car.
Insurance paid for it.
She scrambled through the pages again, searching for escape clauses that didn't exist. This could ruin my credit score, my job applications, background checks will show this. Yes, they will. The simple confirmation hit her like a physical blow. Emily's designer composure finally shattered completely, and she slumped forward on the sofa, expensive clothing suddenly disheveled, mascara beginning to streak as reality crushed her entitled worldview. Do you understand what this means for my future? Her voice rose to near hysteria. I could face criminal charges too, couldn't I?
Vandalism, insurance fraud.
These are felonies. I'd researched every possible consequence during my weeks of preparation. Potentially, yes. Emily slid from the sofa to her knees on the hardwood floor, legal papers scattering around her like fallen leaves. The transformation was complete from confident manipulator to broken child-facing consequences for the first time in 28 years.
Please don't do this, Dad. I'm begging you.
She clasped her hands together in genuine supplication. This will destroy my life, my job prospects, my credit history, everything. For the first time since this confrontation began, I saw something I'd been waiting for. Genuine remorse replacing self-preservation. Her tears seemed authentic rather than manipulative. Her panic focused on understanding rather than escaping.
I was desperate. I wasn't thinking about consequences.
The words tumbled out between sobs. I just saw them an opportunity to solve my problems, and I took it without considering how it would hurt you. She looked up at me from the floor, mascara streaked and completely vulnerable.
I'll do anything.
Pay you back, change jobs, go to counseling.
I know I destroyed your trust. I know what I did was criminal.
The family photos on the mantel watched this scene with painted smiles from happier times. Through the window, the destroyed Ford Explorer served as a constant reminder of why we'd reached this point. I'm sorry for what I did to your car, to our family, to you. Emily's voice broke completely. I became someone Mom would be ashamed of, didn't I? Watching my daughter's complete emotional breakdown, seeing her finally understand that actions have consequences beyond her comfortable bubble of entitlement, I felt the terrible satisfaction of a parent who has had to choose justice over comfort for the sake of their child's character. But beneath the satisfaction, something else stirred. The possibility that this lesson might actually work.
I'll find a therapist, get a stable job, pay back every penny of damages, she continued desperately.
I'll sign any agreement you want.
Follow any conditions you set.
I leaned forward slightly, speaking my first words in several minutes. Maybe we can discuss terms. 2 hours later, we sat at the kitchen table where this crisis had begun months ago. Coffee cups between us and a handwritten agreement taking shape on legal pad paper. Emily's emotional breakdown had given way to exhausted determination, her usual manipulative energy replaced by genuine humility. Weekly counseling sessions for 6 months minimum, I wrote in neat engineering script. Focus on financial responsibility and family relationships, I agree. Emily's voice carried none of her usual argumentative tone. I know I need help understanding why I make these choices. Full-time employment within 30 days. Proof of steady income for restitution purposes. She nodded. No longer the entitled daughter who demanded money just months ago.
I'll take whatever job I can find.
No more excuses about finding the right opportunity. The damaged Ford Explorer remained visible through the kitchen window, its broken windshield catching evening light like a memorial to destroyed trust. I decided to leave it unrepaired, not from inability to afford fixes, but as a permanent reminder of what happened when someone chose destruction over responsibility. Gradual repayment of my $500 insurance deductible, $50 monthly until satisfied. That's fair. Emily studied the growing list of conditions. More than fair, considering what I put you through. I set down my pen and looked at my daughter. Really looked at her for the first time since her confession weeks ago. The arrogant confidence had vanished, replaced by someone who understood consequences and seemed genuinely committed to change. This was a lesson, Emily, about responsibility and consequences.
I know, Dad. I finally understand that. I'll withdraw the lawsuit if you meet these conditions faithfully.
But trust must be rebuilt gradually through actions, not promises. Emily reached across the table and covered my hand with hers, a gesture I hadn't felt from her in years. Thank you for not giving up on me, for caring enough to teach me this lesson instead of just enabling me forever. The irony wasn't lost on me. Sarah had tried to warn me about enabling Emily, but I'd chosen protection over accountability until my daughter's betrayal forced my hand. Now faced with real consequences, Emily was showing more maturity than she'd demonstrated in years.
I want to be the daughter you and Mom raised me to be, she continued, tears starting again, but different ones, grateful rather than desperate. I know I haven't been that person for a long time.
We spent the next hour finalizing details, counseling, appointment scheduling, job search timeline, monthly check-ins to review progress. Emily signed each page carefully, treating the agreement like the solemn contract it represented. As evening approached, we stood in the driveway beside my destroyed vehicle, looking at damage that had transformed from betrayal into education. Emily touched the broken windshield gently, her fingers tracing spiderweb cracks she'd created in anger.
I'll never forget what I did here, she said quietly, or how much you had to suffer to teach me this lesson.
Sitting at the same kitchen table where this crisis began months ago, watching my daughter sign a commitment to become the responsible adult her mother and I had tried to raise, I realized that sometimes the hardest lesson a parent can teach is that love includes accountability. And the greatest gift we can give our children is the opportunity to face the consequences of their choices. Emily gathered her purse in the signed agreement, moving toward the door with renewed purpose rather than entitled expectation. At the threshold, she turned back.
I love you, Dad. Thank you for saving me from myself.
The destroyed car would remain in my driveway for now, not as evidence of betrayal, but as proof that even the most painful lessons can lead to genuine transformation when consequences are allowed to teach what enablement never could. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.